So the next thing we want to discuss is default values or default arguments. So let's say we have a function. Let's say we have a function, and let's use our grade function. So we can do something like this. And here I can say that, okay, I want this function to accept name, age, and pets, and also time. And once it accepts that, it should return this hello plus whatever name that enters plus, what can we do? Let's say, okay, plus how are you doing this whatever thing, and we can also say plus your age is whatever age that we pass to it. Then you can say plus of whatever pets. Whatever pets that we pass to it. So don't worry, this is not too much. It's something that we've actually been doing, and it's just like we are concatenating strings together with whatever value we have here. So let's say we have let name equals read1. You know, we know how to do this before. We have let name equals read1, and let read1's age should be, I think read1 is 13. So read1's age should be 13, and let's pet name read1 loves cats. So let's say cats, and time we have presently is afternoon. So let time equals afternoon. So this is going to work if we run the function. So if we run the function, greet is going to work. So it's something we know before, but let's just check in the console to make sure that we are actually doing the right thing. So if you go back here and we check, you see that we got an error. And what is the error? We got hello undefined. How are you doing this undefined? Your age is undefined. You love undefined. You see that? So definitely something is wrong somewhere. But what could be wrong? No. So we get this, and I want to introduce you to something called default arguments. So this default arguments is just like this. So we can say name equals, let's say name equals this. We don't have it. And we can say his age equals 35, and the pet equals, let's say dog, and the time is what? Afternoon. So if we do this, and I copy this, go back to the console, and I do this. I got name dash, how are you doing this afternoon? Your age is 35, you love dog. So, okay. So nothing has changed. We just have a function that returns a greeting. The only thing that is new in this function is default. Let me just copy this so that I want to redo. Okay. So I'm going to do this first. So this is just the same as what we have above. The only thing that is different here, you know, is just the introduction of this new thing, and it is called default arguments. You can see there, default arguments. So default arguments, you know, like when I run this in the console, it prints out hello, which is empty. How are you doing this time, which is afternoon? Your age is 35, which is this, and you love pets, which is dog, this. So because of the way I made the parameters, I gave them default arguments, which says that if I don't provide, like I did the other time and I got undefined. So if I don't provide a value for name, which I haven't anyways, well, then make name empty, which is an empty string, make age 35, make my pet dog, and make the time equals afternoon. So if I do something like this, if I go back into my console and I do, okay, let me do greets now. So if I do greets and I'm passing it a different name, if I do name equals Balogun and I do age equals 12 and I do pet equals cats and I do time equals money. Oops, that should be a string. So time equals money. So if I do this now, I got hello Balogun. How are you doing this morning? Your age is 12. You love cats. I hope we are trying to like get what I'm trying to do. So the default parameters get ignored if if you pass parameters to your function. But if you don't pass parameters to your function, then it's going to return whatever default value you have set to that. And you might be asking, like, where could this be useful? Sometimes, it could be useful in some maybe particular applications you are building, and you want to make sure, like, even if the user doesn't apply, if they don't input a value, you have a default value that is going to get returned back to the user. So you don't want them to like, probably there's no value and they are getting error. No, you have a default value. Sometimes if you register on, I think on some websites, once you register, if you don't upload your picture, your profile picture, they are going to give you a default profile picture so that you have that and you can change it anytime you want. So that is one of the places why the default value can be useful. So my function won't fail if I have default values because I have the argument, the default argument. So that is very, very cool. It's something you can, check out after this session so that we can move on to the next page because we still have some things to cover, some new things to cover. So, but then I just have to rediscuss that, like, you can always provide default values for when the property you are destructuring is not defined. Like if you see the other time when I run the pet and something like that. Okay, let's go back. So if I clean this now, let me refresh the page. So if I clean that and I do this without passing it any arguments, if I do this now and I run greets without anything, what do I get? I got hello undefined. How are you doing this undefined? This doesn't really make sense. Your age is undefined. So let's say I'm building this application for people, and I know that people can, sometimes you might like be expecting them to input some things and they are not inputting anything. I can just use this. Hello, your name. Hello, I can do something like you omitted your name. Hello. Okay, yeah. Okay, let's do this. I can do something like hello stranger. Hello stranger. Age is 35, pet equals dog, time equals afternoon. So if I do something like this, or let me say, okay, if I do something like this, and okay, let's do this so that it will be clearer. So I don't have I know that they are going to input their age, that okay, and time. So if I do something like this, I have the time and what's it called? Having defaults, you see that I have name with default value of stranger. In case they don't write their name, it's going to return something no matter what. And I have the time, afternoon. So if I do greets, so greets, no name, but they have the age to be 13. They have pet to be dog, and they have, okay, let me leave it that way. Will this return something? No, because I need to, okay, let's pass it. Let's pass this age and pet. So let's say they forgot to, like, you know, give us some things. So instead of undefined, so if I do this and I check greets, I got hello stranger because you fail to, But if I do greets, what is my name? I do name equals read one. I do read one. So if I do this now, I got this back. So that is the flexibility of using default. You see this? This is different. So if the person fails to, like, put their name, then do hello stranger as default, then print out other things. But if they include their name, then change it the default to whatever name they give to you. So you see that our program is kind of extensible and it's really, really making sense. So trying to assign a variable corresponding to a key that does not exist on the destructured object will cause the value, undefined, to be assigned instead. So you can pass default values that we assigned, that will be assigned to such variables instead of undefined, because undefined is something you don't want to get in your program. So we can actually do another example. So we can do something like, for, let's say we want to have default values in arrays. So let's say we do something like let is missing. Oops. Let is missing default to true, in case, then equals empty array. So if I console.log this, let's see what we have. Console.log is missing. Let's see this. So if I check this now, let's play this, and we do this, we have true. It's missing equals true. We can do the same thing for objects too. For objects in destructuring, we can do let person equals name, and name equals Tunde, and where is Tunde? Tunde should be in Lagos. So let's say the town, oops, committed something here. I know you saw that, you were like, read one, what are you doing? Name equals town, and the town is Lagos. Let me leave it. It doesn't really matter. So if I want to give this, if I do let name equals person, we already know this. So if I actually console.log name out, you see that the name will map that. So let me just give a space here. So if I go back into my console and I paste this, we got name, which is to the back. So let's set a default value to this, just in case. Let's say we want to add age to this. So what can we do? We can just do, before we do this, we can just do name. We have name already that we want to destructure out. We want to destructure out the town. And we have age that's, doesn't exist, but we want to get that out. So we can just set that default to age. So if I do this now, and I need to refresh. Yes, be getting some errors. Sorry, some minutes. So if I do this and I press this, I got the age back, which is 24. So if we check, you see that the age is not there, but we are getting that back. Isn't that strange? So that is one of the beauty. And here we assigned a value, a default value of 24 to the variable of age. Since the age key does not exist, on the person object, 24 is assigned to the age variable instead of undefined. So what do I mean? So let's say we don't have, we are trying to destructure this, and in the person object, we only have name and town. We don't have age as the property of this object, but we are trying to like get that out. So if I do this, I got undefined. So instead of getting undefined, and you know that undefined is something that you don't really want in your code, it's going to like introduce a lot of bugs. So you can set a default value to that. So if the number of items in an array or number of properties in an object is more than the number of local variables passed to the structuring array or object literal, then the excess items are not mapped. But if the number of local variables passed to the destructuring array or destructuring object literal exceeds the number of items in the array or exceeds the number of property in that object, then each excess local variable will be assigned a value of undefined, like we have here. So except you do what? You specify a default value. Like we have here is inside this array. Let's say we want to have, let's say this array, we have, let's say this way. We have new array, which equals to list of items here. We have 10, we have, okay, let's do it this way. So here is missing is not part of this particular array. So if I'm trying to get is missing, I'm trying to destructure it, it's going to return undefined. But now I have given is missing a default value. So this default value, we make sure we are not returning undefined, we are returning something. So another example is we can do is, and I think this is going to be the last example. I'm just trying to like give us different examples so that we can actually understand what what is actually happening and how beautiful this is. Excuse me. So, excuse me. So imagine we have the data of a student, including this course, in 3 subjects like mathematics, science, and English, represented in an object. We need to display some information based on this data. We could end up with something looking like this. Let's say we haven't talked much about this const, but I'm still using it. But don't worry, it's the same thing as let, just that it's constant. Okay, I've talked about that sometimes ago. So it's something we understand now. Let's say we have this student object, and the name of the student is what? For example, I'll say use me. The name of the student is Ridwan Balogun, and his age, Ridwan's age is 18, and discuss in some subjects is also an object. We have maths, he scored 79. Is that good? We have English. Ridwan is not really good with English, but he scored 54. We have science. In science, he got no science very well. So he got 90. So if we want to display the scores of this student, how do we do that? Before we can write a function, and we can say the function display what? Display scores. And this function is going to take in the whole student margin, including the data we don't need. The only thing we are interested in is just discuss. We don't need the age, the name. We just want discuss. So imagine before we have to do something like console.log and we can log out. Let's say let's log out his name. We need his name. Let's say hello plus student name. So that is going to give us hello student name. So hello with name. So we have this. Then we can do something like before. We can do something like console.log. What else? Your math score. Okay. Your math score. Oops. Your math score is. Then we can do plus whatever we have here, which is students. So I'm going to use students.imagine.scores. I have to be going deeper. .scores.math or let's use or 0 in case they don't pass in anything. So we can actually do the same for the remaining two subjects. So we have to be typing and typing and typing. Imagine we have to be typing and typing. So that is why ESC came, just like make life easier for us. The next thing is English, and we can do scores dots. We have English, and the next thing is what? Science. So we can do scores of science. So this actually works, and we have to run the function. So we can say display scores and the students. So we pass that in. So if I run this function in my console, if I run this code in my console, oh boy, we got something back. We got hello Ridwan Balogun, which is right. Your math score is 79, which is correct. Your English score is 54. This is fine. Your science score is what? 90, and this is fine. So with the above code, this code, we would achieve the desired result, which is fine. However, there are a few, caveats to writing code this way. One of which is you can easily make a typo. Like you can make a typo error. Instead of writing scores.english, I can mistakenly write, maybe you see that score.english, which is going to result in an error. So what do I mean? So if I refresh this now, and I copy this, and I go back here, so I'm waiting for my browser to load all the page. So if I do this now, if I do this, I got an error. Why? Because there is a typo here. So instead of scores, it is possible. Humans, we are prone to make errors. So anybody can make the error, typo error. So that is why destructuring is there, just to make our life easier. So, Ridwan, the question now is, how do you destructure codes so that we don't have this kind of error? So what do you do? How do you do that? Well, to do that, instead of having it this way, I can do something like this. So I'm going to write a function. So this function is going to display, instead of display score, let's do display summary. So inside there, what are the things I need? I need the name. So I need the name. What else do you need? I need the scores. And we know that the scores is also an object. So I need mathematics from the scores. And the default should be 0, just in case they don't have any score. I need English. And English also should default to 0, just in case, no value is coming in. And I need science also. And this should default to 0. So once you get this, what should you do? Then you should console.log, let's just use this for now. Or let's do something. So once you get this, console.log, your name is console.log hello. Okay, let's do hello. console.log hello plus instead of student.name plus name, then console.log what else? Console.log discourse. Yeah. So you can do your math score. So you can do your math score is instead of being student score or blah 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 is what is math. So we can do the same for other subjects too. So here I don't really care about making, there's no fear. Like I'm going to make any mistake. So you can do your English score is what? Your English score is this. Then we can do the same thing for science. So let me just refresh this then. Right. So we can do for science, we can actually do this. Your science score is this. So if I run this, where is it? So if I run this particular code, I can say display summary, then I give it the object which I have destructured. So if I do this and I copy this code, I think I need to copy that object. So I'm just going to cut this out. I'm going to paste it here. Might be useful later. So if I copy this code and I go back into my console, clear this, paste it here, and I do this, you see that we have our output back. So this is, this makes life easier, and it makes you to have cleaner code. It makes you to have, you know, it makes you to have, what can I say? It makes you to have codes that are bug free. So that is why we do it this way. So this might look too much, but you just have to get used to it because it looks way nicer than what we have to be doing. So with destructuring, it makes life easier. So that is that about destructuring. So the next one we are going to talk about, probably the last one for today, is object properties. Let me end this so that we can